And of course, we have our little accommodation facility, which I, must pay some attention to as well.
Absolutely. Mark, let's go way back to the genesis of WCMF and tell us about your involvement in the World Creole Music Festival from inception.
Well, the way I got involved in it was in about July 1995 or early August, can't tell exactly remember, when the United Workers' Party had just won the election. I went up to the NDC's office, which was at the time where the forestry department now is. As I got up to the landing there, Mr. O.J. Seraphin opens the door from the boardroom, going into the bathroom just across from the conference room. And I'm standing there, and he says to me, the festival is on. The Cadas Festival is on. And he enters the bathroom and he goes. And but before he entered, he said, Georges will be in touch with you. Now, Georges happened to be the acting general manager of the NDC at the time, because the substantive general manager was now his former His Excellency Charles Savre. But since he was, if you like, a supporter of the party that just lost the election, it wasn't, so to speak, propitious for him to remain acting and working. So he had leave, so he went on leave, but he's still officially the general manager. So although Mr. Sheridan Gregoire had been chosen to be the new general manager, there couldn't be two general managers at the same time. So Mr. Sheridan had to wait until Mr. Charles Savre's leave was up. So in the meanwhile, Mr. Georges was acting general manager. His substantive post was office manager. Okay? So subsequently, he did contact me, and about 2 weeks later, and four of us had a meeting. That was myself, Fred Nicholas, who most people in Dominica know him, is the bass player, Sobers Esprit, who was working at the NDC at the time, and Mr. Georges himself. So the four of us had a discussion, and we spoke about how that event might take place, where it would take place, etc. We agreed on certain things. One, that we would do it at the Carnival City.
Yeah.
And if people remember, because the stadium occupies part of what used to be the Carnival City. However, it was just around that area there, where there was a permanent stage built out of wood that was there mainly for carnival purposes, but it was there all year round. So therefore, other events would take place there. So we agreed that that's the natural place we should take it. Then we decided, well, let's start to put some numbers together to see, what that might cost in terms of having a figure to bring back to the board to say, this is what it looks like it might cost. And I remember we came up with $250,000 as what we thought it would cost. And I remember Mr. Georges holding his head and saying, oh my God, how am I going to go back to the board and tell them they have to find $250,000 to put on this festival? Well, Fred and myself, who had been involved in the music thing for a while, were kind of surprised that he thought $250,000 was
a lot of money.
Was a lot of money for an event of what we were talking about. Anyway, he did go back, and the green light was given, so festival planning would continue. However, just about September there, a hurricane called Hurricane Marilyn. It was nothing like Hurricane Maria, okay? The people who know Hurricane Marilyn was not like that. It was just a little, you might say, a big wind with lots of rain that caused some damage, some landslides, and, and a little breeze blows down the bananas. So lots of bananas were thrown down and so on. So everybody's mind was more on, especially the government, on getting over the damage caused by Hurricane Marilyn. So for a couple of months, September, October, and so on, we didn't have any further meetings. But by then, Mr. Sheridan Gregoire is officially the general manager. And from what I understand, he had been spoken to or speaking with Mr. Dennis Joseph, who told him, well, it would be a good idea if a festival commission would be formed in Dominica that would essentially take over and do all festivals, not only this Kadas festival you're talking about there, but basically all festivals, from Dumfesta to Village Feast, etc. And in point of fact, a festival commission was thought of, but it was not thought of in the same way as Mr. Joseph had in mind. Mr. Joseph had in mind an organization that would have its own legal personality. In other words, it would be a person that could sue and could be sued, etc., and have its own board of directors, etc., just like the NDC had. So, but eventually that didn't happen. So it was a festival commission that was, if you like, under the aegis of the NDC.
Yeah.
So, okay, so checks and all that sort of stuff there would be signed as part of NDC expenses and so on. So there was this festival commission, and then the commission then had different committees. Okay? And there was a Kadas Festival Committee on which I was a member. I was also a member of the Festival Commission as well. And people might remember the Festival Commission did in fact try to put on more than one event. They, in point of fact, did put on a Dumfesta once, and they didn't do it again because the expectation of revenue being able to pay for the event didn't materialize, and it was dropped. But the Festival Commission did do a big event at the State House grounds at the time, as it was a flower festival in cooperation with the Dominica Horticultural Society. I still have the T-shirt from that event. So the Festival Commission did in fact try to do these other events. But the one that stuck and continued all the time was the Creole Music Festival, which was not called at the beginning Creole Music Festival. The discussions that we had at the beginning, on which I think you were a member pretty close to the start of the event. I don't know if you were there at the very first meeting,
Yes,
but at least the second or third or whatever, you were there for sure. We were talking about organizing a Kadas festival.
Yes, I recall that.
Okay, so now we are in 96.
Yeah.
And Mr.
I came in at 96.
Right, okay.
By that time, Sheridan Gregg
was the manager since September.
Yeah.
And Mr. Sheridan Gregg organized a big symposium, you might say, at the Garaway Hotel, to which he invited the Boo Rudder, I think that's his name. He was the person organizing the crop over in Barbados. He invited Mr. Alwyn Bully, who was the UNESCO's advisor on culture for the Caribbean, resident in Jamaica. And there was one other person from a UN agency, I can't remember who it was. These are the persons who were outside over there, plus lots of people from Dominica here. And at that meeting at the Garaway Hotel, the decision was, if you like, solidified that we would go forward and organize the Kadas Music Festival. That's what it was still called. Yeah. So that's how I got involved in it. Yeah.
And then later it would have changed to a Kadas Zouk Festival.
Right.
Which would incorporate the French
on my
Antilles.
Well, here's what happened. When we were discussing the festival and so on and this and that, I said, well, there's a little bit of a problem calling the event a Kadas Festival, because at the time Exile One had broken up and they were not performing. Gramax, the same thing. Although Jeff was still trying to do his thing by himself, but the band Gramax essentially had disintegrated, and most of the other Kadas bands that we knew were no longer functioning. It was really only Ophelia and Midnight Groovers, you would say, that were actively performing and doing the music.
And then to a lesser extent, Serenade and Aris.
Right. But they were not known for Kadas as such, anyway. But they were doing that. So I said, it's not a great idea to call the thing Kadas Festival, because maybe in 5-6 years nobody remembers what Kadas is.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you would be stuck with a name that doesn't resonate with many people. Yeah. So it was in that context at the time Zouk was coming up in popularity, quite popular, especially after Kassav released their Zouk Classicel Medica Manuni. Yeah, that Zouk was, a big thing. So somebody in the meeting, it wasn't me, I don't know, can't remember who it was, suggested, why don't we have a Zouk stroke Kadas festival?
Yeah.
So for a number of meetings, we were discussing a Zouk Kadas festival. And then I said again, somewhere in the discussions there, the Zouk, strictly speaking, is a Martinican event. Okay, I never heard of a Zouk in Guadeloupe, by the way. Yeah, although most of the music that came to be called Zouk came out of Guadeloupe, but the event Zouk is a Martinique thing.
Which is like a ball.
It was a kind of ball if you like, but a ball that was played at people's homes, with records.
Yeah.
And because Kassa's music was popular just at that time when that thing was itself was becoming popular, a DJ called Ineas on Radio Caribbean called the music that was Kassa was playing Zouk. And that's how the word caught on to the music, because originally when the Martin said Zouk, Zouk also simply meant we had a party and records were going to play. Okay, so you wouldn't have a live music in a Zouk.
Yeah.
You had records playing in a Zouk. DJs. That's how the DJ thing started up in Martinique. Then it spread into discotheques and so on. Okay, so I said, for the same reason that we shouldn't stick ourselves with a name that might disappear and be limited. We should look for a name that is more universal and has longevity, probably forever.
Yeah.
And I said, why don't we call it the Creole Music Festival?
Yeah.
Because it would involve Zouk, Kadas, whatever, etc. Quadrille, the thing they play in
Begin,
Mazuka, all of that would fit into it immediately. Right, as well as, and then music that are similar in style and presentation, like salsa and merengue and so on, there would easily be fitted in as part of it. They wouldn't be the dominant thing, but they could fit in there. So that's how I said Creole Music Festival. And Michael Fagan, who at the time was the manager of Kubuli Beer Factory, who was a member of the committee, because there's the festival commission and there's the Kadas committee, okay, or the festival committee. He said world. He added world to Creole
music.
Right. So that is how we said, yes, that's it. That sounds great. World Creole Music Festival. So all that is in 96, okay, and we are planning for the event. And then we decided, well, what date would be the best date to put it? We started in January, and we said, well, January is just after Christmas. Everybody has partying all the time, not only in Dominica, but in different countries in the island. Most people are not going to be wanting to travel in January and so on. So January is out. However, right around the corner is February. Carnival is kicking up.
That's out.
Right, that's out as well, because many of the islands have carnival. Dominica has carnival, that's out as well. Then we come to Easter. Well, Easter time in Dominica, at the time in any case, was a time when the tourism business, nearly all hotels in Dominica were full for the Easter weekend. So there's no point doing something to bring people in when all the people are already in to go walking in the bush. So let's leave Easter alone, which then brings us up to end of May. St. Lucia has their jazz festival. So that's not okay. Which brings us into summertime. Summertime, most people in the Caribbean, especially bands and so on, are up in North America performing in these West Indian carnival things. So that's not a great idea. September is raining and it's back to school. Okay, people's head are on a different thing, which meant when it came up to October, and we say, what's going on in October? Nothing as far as we knew. So we said, well, beginning of October is not a great idea because it's too close to September. People haven't fully, if you like, settled back into the